You know, whenever there is a news story that we feel is important to share with you about things having to do on the autism spectrum, we do. We see these things now covered more and more in the traditional press, but there's always a bit of a spin to it, and we like to put our own fresh face on it from the perspective of having children on the autism spectrum. This story today is one in particular that you're going to be seeing a lot in the news in the next couple of days, because the publication, the Archives of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine, published a study this last week about teens on the autism spectrum and bullying. And what we're seeing is, and the headlines are all reading, that approximately 50% of all teenagers are bullied who go to school. And this is according to parents who were surveyed. That it was 46% that the parents reported were bullied at school. And as you look at the numbers, if you look in depth in the study, 46% reported that their children were bullied. 15% reported that their children were the bulliers. They were bullies themselves. And is bullier even a term? And 9% shared that they felt that their child fit both profiles, that they had bullied and they had been bullied. And what is interesting that is coming out in the study and that everybody's talking about is that the average rate of parents who don't have children on the autism spectrum comes out at about 11%. So the rate of people, of parents who have children on the spectrum is significantly higher, as if this is of particular news to anybody. I think that those of us who have children on the autism spectrum are pretty aware of the fact that our kids are a bigger target and are more often bullied. What's interesting, and one of the things that you're not going to hear when you see this talked about on other shows, is that this comes from a survey that was taken in the year 2001. And 920 parents were polled and asked these questions, and that's where they took the data from. So this data is more than a decade old, which suggests to me that the number might be significantly different. The other thing that's of huge interest to me is that the researchers say that, in accordance with their findings, that schools should target their anti-bullying campaigns towards the more vulnerable populations, such as children on the autism spectrum who have ADD, ADHD, that kind of a diagnosis. And the quote from Paul R. Sturzing, who is the study's lead author from the University of California, Berkeley, says, "I would argue that the bullying interventions that we're using now, if not tailored, as in tailored to that specific population, are ineffective." I think that is what is of interest to me more than anything else, is that the Band-Aid that the schools are trying to put on it, if it isn't tailored specifically to those populations, then it runs the risk of being completely ineffective. And in this day and age where there's so little money for education to begin with, and when those of us who are going to IEP meetings are having to face, you know, we know that the government has a responsibility to offer us a free, appropriate public education, but if there's no funds, right? You know, where is it all coming from? And it becomes contentious. That if we're going to spend money, and we do need to spend money on anti-bullying campaigns, they need to be effective for the people who are most likely at risk. So we talk about this on the show a lot. How can we be more effective helping our children? This is just one of the ways now that studies are showing us. But again, I have to remind everybody that these numbers are coming from 2001. A little bit shocking, but research takes time. In any case, that's our In the News for today. We will hope for more effective strategies helping our children with bullying in schools.